Here's a very straightforward arrangement of Silent Night. I'm playing in the key of G, or as if in the key of G, but actually I've got a capo on the 3rd fret. That's just me. I quite like the mellow sound of B flat, but also the slightly more intimate feel that I get with a shorter neck. But of course you can play this wherever it suits you. And there's a lot of G in this arrangement. I'm playing G this way generally with my 2nd and 3rd fingers down on the bottom 2 strings, but as we'll see, especially at the end, we are going to need to switch over to this fingering with the 1st and 2nd fingers here. For now though, 3 beats in the bar, and it pays to play this slowly. It can be a little more challenging to play slowly because, well, the mistakes last that much longer, so you have to be quite crisp about this. And don't feel you have to play notes that occur together exactly simultaneously. If you just want to separate them a little bit, that can be quite nice. Just adds a bit of life to your playing, like that. And really what you want to do is bring the bass note forward. Just play it slightly early rather than delaying the melody note there. Okay. At the first line, I've got these 2 bars that just repeat. And I've got this hammer on the 3rd beat of the 2nd bar. If you want to put that in, that's up to you. I've got this as an element that kind of runs throughout the arrangement, so watch out for that at the end of some of the lines. Okay, that's the first line. In the 2nd line, I've got 2 bars of D7, but with a melody up here. So I'm going to play this D7, a bit less usual, with my 1st finger here on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, my little finger up on the 5th fret. That allows me to play the melody, and then we're going to shift down to the standard D7. And I can keep my 1st finger there as we go to the C chord. It's a straight C chord, but again I've got my little finger in play. And we end up on G again, and that's just like bars 2 and 4. We had this in bars 2 and 4. Now it's the same thing, but with the little finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, so the whole of that 2nd line. And again that hammer on. Okay, 2nd line, done. Now the 3rd line and the 4th line, that's 4 bars that repeat, and we go back to C, and we get a melody. La, da, 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 dee, da, da. And for the la, da, da, I'm actually going to do this. I'm using my 1st and 3rd fingers, then 1st and 2nd fingers, and then finally just my 1st finger. Alternating that with the open 3rd string. So, and back to our familiar hammer-on bar. That repeats. Okay, just 2 lines to go. In line 5, we're back to this. And we want. And I'm going to treat that with a diminished chord. Here it is. It's the same shape 3 times. To begin with, I'm going 7, 8, 7, 8. Now you could bar that. I prefer to use 4 separate fingers. I just find that's easier to get that in position. And they just move down from 7 and 8 down to 4 and 5, and finally 1 and 2. Okay, so we have. And I'm just playing those 1 chord at a time. I mean, you could split them up, create some picking, but I'm just going to do that. That takes us into E minor. Normally I'd play E minor with the second and third fingers, but I'm playing it this way, first and second fingers, because I want my little finger to catch that note on the third fret of the top string. So we have that note there. That's a B. That's my little finger on the 7th fret of the top string, and I'm going to bar across the top 4 strings on the 5th fret, and I'm going to put my second finger on the 6th fret of the 3rd string, then play the open 5th string. That gives me an A9, that's a C sharp half diminished with an A in the bass. So all of that. You might find it easier to use your little finger here up on the 7th fret because you are already playing it from the diminished chord. But that's up to you. Standard thing to do would be use the 3rd finger there, but maybe you don't need to change that. And we're almost done. The last 4 bars now. We get... But I'm going to switch my fingering over like this because I need fingers on the top 2 strings on the 3rd fret. And for the 3rd beat, that 3rd finger comes off the 2nd string. And now I've got a D7 this way, a 3rd way of playing D7, which is like a C chord, like a C7, if you know that, little finger on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, and I'm just going to move that up a couple of frets to make D7. And I'm going to do something a little bit nifty here. Moving to yet another D7 shape, which is D7 over F sharp. And finally, if you want it, I'm putting my little finger on the 3rd fret of the 5th string to create the 7 of the chord there. That might be a little bit extra, but that gives me something useful to play on every half beat. And I finish off then back to this shape again. Okay, so the whole of the final line. And that's it. Okay, well, if it's that time of year for you and you celebrate, Merry Christmas. Let's have a little playthrough. 1, 2, 3, 1.